The clank and hiss of a radiator waking up on a cold morning, the squeak of a screen door spring, and the bang as it slapped shut, the soft thunk of a milk bottle landing in a little door in the wall. If you grew up in America between the 50s and the 80s, your house had features built right into it that have completely, totally vanished. Not changed, not updated, but gone. So gone that a kid today wouldn't even know what they were looking at. The bones of the place. And today, you and I are going to walk through the whole house together, top to bottom, to find every one of them. But stay with me right to the end. Because the last room we'll reach is one that every family had, that no house has anymore. And the moment I name it, you'll realize you haven't thought about it in 40 years. I'll take you there. So settle in. Picture the house you grew up in, the whole thing, the front door, the smell of it, the sounds it made at night. Ready? Let's walk in. We start at a little door in the wall by the back step, one almost no house has anymore, the milk chute. A small metal door built right into the wall of the house, with a door on the outside and a door on the inside. Be honest, if your house had one, you knew it as the magic little cabinet where milk simply appeared. The milkman came before dawn, opened the outside door, and set the heavy glass bottles inside, cold, with the cream risen to the top and a little paper cap. And from the kitchen, you opened the inside door and brought them in. You never even saw him. The milk just arrived, in the wall, like the house itself had produced it overnight. And kids being kids, in plenty of families, the milk chute was also the way you got back into the house when you were locked out, because a small child fit through it perfectly. A whole generation of American kids got posted through the milk chute to go open the back door from the inside. It's bricked up or gone in nearly every house now, and a kid today would have no idea what that strange little door in an old wall ever was. And the milkman himself was part of the family's week. He knew your order: 2 quarts, a pint of cream, cottage cheese on Fridays, and you left him a note in an empty bottle to change it. He left the bill, and you left the money, on trust, in the chute. In the deep cold of winter, the milk froze and pushed the cardboard cap up on a little column of frozen cream, and you raced to bring it in before it did. In the heat of summer, he came earlier and earlier to beat the sun. He was one of a whole parade of people who came to your house. The milkman, the breadman, the iceman before him, the man who sharpened knives, the fuller brush man, the doctor with his black bag. The house didn't send you out to the world for everything. The world came up the front walk and knocked, and the little door in the wall was where it quietly left the milk. In through the front, to the room nobody was allowed to use, the formal living room, the front parlor. And the rule was simple. You did not go in there. Be honest. Your house had a whole room, the nicest one, with the good furniture and the carpet with the vacuum line still in it, kept perfect and empty for company. Company that came maybe twice a year. The plastic runner on the carpet, the candy dish full of candy nobody was allowed to eat, the good lamp that was never turned on, the piano nobody could quite play, with the framed photos marching across the top. It was a museum of a room, a stage set for a visit that rarely came. And think about what it meant, that a family of modest means would take the single best room in the house and simply not use it, keep it ready in case something special happened, in case important people came. It was pride, and it was hope. We don't keep a room in reserve for our best selves anymore. We knock down those walls and we live in the whole house now, all of it, all the time, and a little bit of that hopefulness went out of the home when the front room did. Down the hall, to the great iron beast that warmed the house, the cast iron radiator, the heavy ornate thing under each window that clanked and hissed and ticked as the heat came up. You dried your mittens on it. You backed up against it on a freezing morning until it was almost too hot to bear. It had a life of its own. It banged and knocked in the night like someone tapping on the pipes, a sound every kid in an old house learned to sleep through. There was no silent, invisible, even heat from a vent you never thought about. There was a great iron animal in every room that you could hear and feel and touch. And in the summer, with no central air, the house fought the heat in a dozen small ways. The box fan jammed in the window, roaring that you talked into for your robot voice. the attic fan that pulled the whole house's air up and out with a low thrum, the one window unit in the parents' room that the whole family crowded into to sleep on the worst nights. Comfort wasn't a number on a wall. It was something the whole family worked at, season by season, and the great clanking radiator, the honest heart of a winter house, is gone now from almost everywhere. Now find the little door in the upstairs wall and drop something down it, the laundry chute. A hatch in the wall of the upstairs hall or bathroom that opened onto a metal shaft running straight down to the basement right above the washing machine. Be honest, this was the single greatest feature a house could have if you were a kid. You stuffed the dirty clothes in and listened to them tumble all the way down to land in the basket below. And every child who ever lived in a house with one wondered the same thing, and a brave or foolish few actually tried it. Could I fit down the laundry chute? It was a temptation built right into the wall. It vanished because we stopped putting the laundry in the basement, and because, frankly, a smooth shaft from the top floor to the bottom turned out to be a wonderful way for a fire to travel. But for a kid, losing the laundry chute was losing a small piece of magic, the satisfying whoosh and tumble of sending something down into the depths of the house. Open the door under the stairs and meet the monster in the basement, the coal chute and the great octopus furnace with its arms reaching up through the floors. If your house was old enough, coal was delivered by being poured down a chute through a little window into a coal bin in the basement, and someone, often a kid's job, shoveled it into the furnace to keep the house alive through the night. That huge furnace, wrapped in its arms of ductwork, crouched in the basement like something out of a story, glowing and roaring behind its iron door. And near it, the incinerator, because in a lot of American homes you simply burned your trash in a barrel out back or a chute in the basement, and a thread of smoke from everyone's garbage was part of the smell of a neighborhood evening. We didn't have 3 sorted bins and a weekly truck. We burned what would burn. That whole loud, dirty, physical business of keeping a house warm and dealing with what it threw away has utterly vanished, replaced by a quiet box and a thermostat you never think about. And tending that furnace was a real and serious job, often the father's last task at night and first in the morning, banking the coals so they'd hold through the night, shaking down the ashes, hauling the ash can out to the curb, the fine gray dust that got into everything. A kid old enough was trusted to feed it and felt the weight of it. If the fire went out, the house went cold and the pipes could freeze. There was a direct physical line between the shovel in your hands and whether your family was warm that night. Today, the heat comes from nowhere you can see, made by nothing you can name, and no child will ever again be sent down to the basement on a January night to keep the family's fire alive. Back upstairs to the little built-in nook in the hallway wall, the telephone nook. A small shelf or alcove built right into the wall of the hall, sometimes with its own little bench or seat made for one thing, the telephone. Because the phone wasn't something you carried, it was a fixture, and the house was designed around it, with its own dedicated little throne in the wall, often with a cubby underneath for the phone book, that great fat book that held every number in town. You sat in that nook to make a call, in the one spot in the house the phone could reach, in full earshot of everyone, the cord stretched as far as it would go. A house built today has no place for a telephone, because the telephone has no place. It's in everyone's pocket. But for decades, the American home had a little built-in shrine to the one phone the whole family shared. And millions of those little empty nooks still sit in old houses, holding a plant or a knickknack now, and the people who live there have no idea what that strange little shelf in the wall was ever for. In the kitchen wall, pull down a door and a whole table appears. The built-in ironing board. A tall, narrow cabinet door set flush into the wall that you pulled open and down, and the ironing board unfolded out of it, ready to use, then folded back up and disappeared into the wall when you were done. Because ironing wasn't an occasional chore, it was a regular all-day event every single week, and the house was built to make room for it. There was a whole vocabulary that went with it, the sprinkle bottle, the spray starch, the basket of dampened clothes rolled up and waiting their turn, the hiss of the iron and the smell of hot cotton, the soap opera on the set while she worked through the pile. That built-in board tucked so cleverly into the wall assumed something about the home that simply isn't true anymore, that someone would stand there ironing for hours every week of her life. The boards are still there, sealed shut behind layers of paint in old kitchens, a folded-up ghost of a chore that once ate a whole day of every week. Up to the top of the house, to the porch you slept on. The sleeping porch. A screened-in porch, usually upstairs, with beds or cots on it, where the family actually slept on hot summer nights. Before air conditioning, the upstairs of a house in July was an oven, and so people simply moved outside to sleep, onto a screened porch built for exactly that, where the night air could move and the screens kept the mosquitoes out. You fell asleep out there to the sound of crickets and a far-off train whistle, the whole family in a row of beds under the open night, the blessed cool finally coming down toward morning. It sounds almost unimaginable now, a whole part of the house built just for sleeping outdoors in the heat. But it was a standard feature for generations, and air conditioning erased it so completely that most people have never even heard the term. We sealed ourselves into cooled boxes, and we gave up sleeping in the moving night air, and a kid today will never know what it was to drift off on the sleeping porch with the whole world breathing around them. And it wasn't only the porch. On the very worst nights, before even that, people dragged mattresses onto the roof, or down to the cool grass of the backyard, or onto the fire escape in the city, and the whole neighborhood slept outdoors together under the same stars, calling goodnight to each other across the yards. Heat used to push people outside into each other's company, onto porches and roofs and lawns, and air conditioning pulled every one of us back inside, behind closed windows, into separate cooled rooms, and quietly ended one of the last times the whole neighborhood did anything all together at once. Out the back door, to the lines strung across the yard, the clothesline, the rotary one that spun like an umbrella, or the long line strung between two poles with the cloth bag of wooden pins riding along it. There was no dryer for most families, or for most of the year. The wash went out in the morning and dried in the sun and the wind, and it came in smelling like nothing else on earth. A smell no machine and no bottle has ever managed to fake, that anyone who grew up with it can summon this very instant. Sheets snapping in the breeze, running through them as a kid between the cool, damp walls of hanging laundry, getting hollered at for it. And it tied the whole house to the sky. Your mother read the clouds for rain, and a kid sent sprinting out to yank the wash off the line as the first fat drops fell and the thunder rolled in, arms full of half-dry clothes and pins, as a memory in their muscles that no one growing up today will ever have. The dryer in a closet is easy and quiet, and it quietly cut the last thread that tied the house to the weather and the turning of the day. And now, the room I promised you at the very start. Come with me to the corner off the kitchen or the end of an upstairs bedroom, because every house had it, and almost no house has it now, the sewing room. Or just the corner where the sewing machine lived, in its own cabinet that folded down. Because in the old American home, clothes were made. Your mother or your grandmother sat at that machine and made your school clothes, your Halloween costume, the curtains that matched the bedspread, the dress for the dance. There were tissue paper patterns spread out on the floor, a pincushion shaped like a tomato with a little strawberry on the side, a coffee can full of buttons saved off every worn-out shirt, a tape measure hung around her neck. And the sound of it, the hum and the rhythmic chatter of the needle late at night as you drifted off to sleep, is one a whole generation knew by heart. And here's the truth of the whole house. The milk chute, the coal furnace, the clothesline, the ironing board, the sewing room, every single one of them was a place where the home made or did or worked. The house canned the tomatoes, burned the trash, dried the wash, ironed the shirts, sewed the clothes, took in the milk before dawn. It produced, it mended, it worked all day, all year long. And somewhere in the last 50 years, the home quietly stopped being a place that makes and mends and tends, and became a place that mostly stores the things we order and keeps us at a comfortable temperature. We gained an enormous amount of ease. But that humming little room where your mother made you something with her own two hands is gone from nearly every house in America. And most kids today have never once fallen asleep to the sound of a sewing machine running softly in the next room. So that's the house, Top to bottom, milk chute to sewing room. Quiet now. Now I want to hear about yours. Which one stopped you cold? The milk chute you climbed through? The laundry chute you dropped your clothes down? The sound of a sewing machine at night? Tell me down in the comments. And tell me the one vanished thing about your old house that we didn't name, because I read every single one, and I'm building the next one from your memories. If this brought even a little of it back, subscribe, and come sit with us again. Next time, we're heading down to the corner drugstore, the one with the soda fountain up front and the pharmacist who knew the whole town by name. We'll leave the light on for you.